Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And you know, Bill, it's very interesting to see, truth in the context of politics. And there is some interesting messaging that's coming out into the world that I think we could learn a lot from and talk about. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like the idea, Tom. One of the nice parts of doing this podcast is to anchor truth in a way that provides the listener a framework for understanding how our perception is influenced, and the things that create more influence, the messages that create more impact, versus messages that don't create as much impact. So this thing, the truth in the political mind, really can make a difference, I think, for our listeners. There's a lot of different things that people are trying to catch eyeballs with, and whether it's a Congress seat or a Senate seat that somebody's running for, or the president coming up for re-election, and it looks like Joe Biden is the guy that is going to be up against him. Let's see how this is going to work, because it's going to be interesting to see how the truth gets purchased along the way.
It sure is. Well, and so what spurred this is a new commercial, a video put out by an organization we've mentioned before briefly on the podcast called the Lincoln Project. And for our listeners, we've got a link to their website at the blog post at purchasingtruth.com. So check that out. We're also going to have the videos there for you to play and see that we're talking about. A little easier to find. Sometimes we go to the Lincoln Project website, and it's kind of hard to find exactly what you want there. But they've made two commercials. This is the organization started by some Republicans, longtime Republicans, that have put country over party. Party loyalty, I guess, maybe is a better way to say. Would you
party
say that,
loyalty?
Bill?
That's right. That's right. Party loyalty.
They've raised money, and they are creating commercials and airing them to try to deter people from voting for President Trump, because these Republicans believe that Trump's really not in alignment with their vision for America.
Yes. Yeah. As well as the need for respect for America, and the a thing that, Tom, that you and I have mentioned before in the past is this scorched earth mindset that Trump gets himself into is, I'm burning everything down. I'm burning my enemies down. I'm going to damage their name. I'm going to impact their future careers because they were not loyal to me, and they didn't support me optimistically, and they didn't get behind my project, my program. So, and he finds all kinds of ways to justify that that mindset. So, if somebody, he sees something wrong on their bill, he won't pay an architect the whole thing because something was wrong on the bill, instead of just fixing the thing that was wrong on the bill, or he somehow has devalued their services. Meanwhile, the contract clearly says, pay the guy. So the Lincoln Project with the videos, Morning in America, which I really particularly enjoy the title and enjoy the message from the pursuit towards truth. From time to time, some of the messaging might get lost or doesn't stick in the listener's brain as much. And those are some things that you and I talk about, is how word choice and images and things they bounce off the person's brain where we want them to stick on the person's brain. It's great. Those videos are great for the already converted former Republicans that are already on the bandwagon of the Lincoln Project. It's able to, be in alignment with that. And so the political mind does some tricky things here that probably we need to talk about a little bit.
I think so, because, what to me, the, how do I say, the encouraging, what's encouraging about what the Lincoln Project is doing, putting out these commercials and putting me into messaging,
it's very encouraging,
is that not everybody is drinking the Trump Kool-Aid and
correct,
completely convinced that he is acting in the best interest of America. And I really respect these people at the Lincoln Project for being vocal and putting out their message. What is regrettable, it seems, is that they too have fallen into the trap that facts are actually going to matter and help sway people. Now, it ends up being more confirmation bias for maybe you and me, Bill, or for, people that are not long-term, conservative people, right?
That's right. The confirmation bias is the thing that kind of people get stuck at. The brain does something really junky here, and it does it so to try to be efficient, to not spend too much time. It confirms what it already knows and believes. It says, does this message match what my belief is? Because I had such a great optimism and belief that Trump was going to drain the swamp. It makes it very difficult for the brain to say, wait a minute, he's more swampy than the people that his administration got rid of. In fact, it's mob boss swampy, and their brain doesn't want to go there because they don't want to be associated with, their self-worth doesn't want to be associated with, I voted to put this guy in there and look what he is doing to my nation. It's not until a critical flaw shows up, he says, wait a minute, I am going to choose to do this because I think it's best for America, not to check in to see what the greater public servant would do, which is, hey, how many lives am I going to lose over this? And it's not going to be that bad. One of the things that, if people are watching Donald Trump's career, he already says it's not going to be that bad, because it's never that bad for him. It's never that bad for the people close to him. It's never that bad for them because he's got this wave of money that keeps showing up at his door. And it's never that bad for him. And that's the thing that the Lincoln Project isn't fully tapping into when they go after facts, is the person that's voting for him is not looking at the thing that they would like him to, that the videos would like them to look at, which is, here's the facts and here's the impact of that fact. So I mean, you've had many insights about this, about all we got to do is pick one fact.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're right, Bill. And this is what struck me, even as, obviously being a student of Bill Stierle, maybe it's a little easier for me to see. But when I saw this video from the Lincoln Project, first of all, I saw, they put out another video. Great. I want to see this. Right. So I was excited. I go and watch it. And, this is the one called This Week, which is the newest one that came out. And it's very dramatic looking video. It definitely commands your attention initially. But then it just starts to put out facts of how many people have died from coronavirus and how many people are on unemployment now, and putting out all these facts.
Great example. Say on their video it says 88,000 have died, Americans. So say that to me, and I'll show you what the political Trump voter does with it.
Okay, so doesn't it mean something to you that 88,000 people have died from coronavirus already?
That number is so overinflated. The doctors are making money by just putting corona down, and that number isn't true.
Wow. Wow.
That's what
I
they
know.
do.
And so that's why I agree the facts don't matter. And the interesting thing is, and I still think this video is worth watching and checking out, because it shows you
it's great
the perspective of this organization, which is trying again to put country over loyalty to the party leader. And so the co-founder of the Lincoln Project, Jennifer Horn, she was quoted with the release of this video. And it's very interesting, Bill, because I think this is very well stated. She says, Trump put his political ambitions before health, safety, and economic security of the American people. Due to his utter failure in response to the coronavirus pandemic, Americans are now sicker, poorer, and worse off than they were 4 years ago. If there's one thing we can count on in the coming weeks, it's that Donald Trump will continue to fail and embarrass the people he's elected to serve. Now, that statement, while the first part was more factual and truthful, that last sentence was a little more, critical and maybe in the labeling world. But but the thing is, you can say that all you want, but to me, when I read that statement, I'm like, oh no. All that any of Trump's people are going to say is, oh, she's a never Trumper. Right.
So and we look for clues. We look for clues of a belief bias. I look for clues. we would look to validate our belief bias. So there's a picture that ran around, I think was posted on Facebook, or I saw somewhere through a social media post, was a picture of Trump with Melania standing next to him, and he was holding up a handkerchief and looked like he was drying a tear off his eye.
Okay.
There was a picture of him. It could have been doctored. It could have been an actual picture, but there was 15, 20 posts saying things like, can you imagine the pressure he was under? He is such a caring person. So those are all of those kinds of quotes that were all in support of the imagining the pressure that Trump was under is a belief bias that the person is looking to validate, because they're stuck on some piece of data or alternate messaging, alternative facts. It is some alternative message that the person is stuck on, which is something like I mentioned, that the doctors were over-reporting the deaths. And Republican voters believe, in the 50, 40, upper 40 percentile, that the numbers are overinflated, where only like 7% of Democrats believe that the numbers are overinflated. That's a huge partisan belief bias. And that means that all you got to do is run a story like that on Fox News, or or the Russians or anybody else needs to put a couple of messages that get hijacked on social media, and then the bias is triggered and the voter still stays loyal. See, keeping a person loyal isn't out of respect and integrity. It's about validation that I'm okay with the way I think. So a video that tries to do a push narrative, which is both of the Lincoln Project's videos are more of a push narrative, and it works towards create a moment of truth, but not necessarily radiate and blow up the person's bias. Because the person's bias, and we've talked about this with our flat earth mindset, is the person's bias is only things I can see and only things I want to believe to be true. And it's weird that Trump actually is a living, breathing example of somebody that does his own confirmation bias out loud. Which is, we have one case, it's going to go away. 17 cases, they're going to be going away really soon. He's looking to confirm what his brain wants other people's brains to believe.
And then when it doesn't come out the way he wants, he just scapegoats everybody else. Right?
Yeah, scapegoats and shifts. Mm-hmm. So in even one of the Fox broadcasters, he exaggerates and spins. Yeah, it's only one of them, right? There's your bias right there. Well done. You took the bait, baby. I'll throw it in front of you, just like a fish to the lure, man. So our body wants to validate these things, and the belief a smart person has, or a video director or editor has, is that if people would just understand the facts, they'll believe. That's not the way it works at all. That's not the way it works at all. The way it works at all is this new belief close enough in alignment with my old belief to get me to listen to you and start trusting you?
Wow. Now that's a very powerful statement there, Bill. And I think that's really the key. And it's regrettably the missed opportunity of the Lincoln Project, don't you think?
Well, it's they're at the beginning of their game. They could pivot right now. I mean, they're at the beginning of their game. They're 2 videos in, and all you need is one. All you need is one to shift the bias. It's like, this is the mayor of the small town that voted for Trump, and here's how they've just got decimated because Trump was not a public servant. See, the mayor of a small town saying, it's not my job to protect the nation from a virus from China. It's the president's job to do that. And he didn't protect us. And because of it, 1,000 of his voters have died in my small town. I mean,
that's
why?
Pretty powerful. Sure.
Because this is my flat earth reality. There's no underreporting here. There were 3,000 people in this small town. 80% of them voted for Trump. They know those numbers.
Sure.
That means this is how many of his voters died because of the virus, because he didn't protect us.
Well, that would be very powerful if we could, if the Lincoln Project could find a mayor or wherever something like this has happened and do
Yes.
that. But I think there's also a way, Bill, isn't there? And I'd love it if you could share with us how, if you were advising the Lincoln Project, how they would message the coronavirus crisis differently, rather than just stating the facts, which is only going to really land with certain people. And it gives the facts give Trump too much of an easy way to say, oh well, the Lincoln Project, that's just a bunch of never Trumpers. It gives his followers an off-ramp to say, well, that's fake messaging. But what kind of message could the Lincoln Project put out about coronavirus that would potentially be believed or taken more seriously by the people that want to believe him?
The three things that I would recommend right off the bat is you've got to take the voter for where they are in their loyalty towards Trump, which means that in the initial part of a message, you've actually got to empathize with the motive for why they voted for him. Empathize with their message. And then empathize for Trump and Trump's behaviors. So, I'm guessing he was looking to feel confident. So he said the virus was going away. It's just disappointing that he wasn't able to protect us. See, we feel disappointed and sad and now have to deal with the loss. So when you're empathizing with the person that's causing you pain, or it is not behaving in a way that you would like them to, the bias starts to lessen and the listener starts to listen. The loyalist starts to listen. It has a similarity to a deprogramming of a cultist, but not quite that. Empathy is an engaged process of demonstrating care for the human being and their limitations of bias that they have. It's sort of like, gosh, I'm not sure about that bias, And Tom, your young children have all kinds of biases that they run at you, and you're going like, oh man, that's just, where did that one come from? And you go like, how did they put that, puzzle piece together? So we want to, step one is to empathize with the loyalist and get that person engaged, that we're a person that sees what they're going through, not through facts, but through the pain that they're going through. And does this look like respect? If you yelled at your neighbor and say, you're a Democrat, and therefore you should do things the way I would like you to do it, and otherwise, I'll never talk to you again. Does that make for a good community in America?
Not really.
Not really. That's like, stirring sectarian violence in a foreign country that would be between two religious groups, as if we haven't done that all in the past. All right. So then set up a thing called contrast. A second step is set up contrast. It's the enthusiasm, the energy that Trump brings to one of his conferences, to one of his rallies. The amount of energy to get people to believe in one thing. But when it's done, when other groups like the NBA is shutting down, does that make it safe when he knows about something and then puts his followers in the same room together just to meet his need for respect and recognition? Now, notice the emptiness that you just felt in your body. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And you're going like, how the hell did I get empty? Because you empathize with the Trump voter. It's really scary out there. So scary that the NBA closed its season. That the NFL is choosing to drop the preseason games to protect its fans and to make its fans safe. Regrettably, the president didn't take that same strategy. And because of it, some of his followers and some of his voters have died. All of a sudden, even though you and I are a little more on the left-hand side of the fence in our belief structure, we still feel empty because we start to feel sad from the contrast of he put his people, here it comes, fellow Americans in danger, in the danger of death, and people have died over that movement. Not necessarily the people that went to the conferences, but their relatives did.
Oh.
And they're Americans too. See, the inclusiveness of the American principle is not one designed around isolation. It's not, or a country identity. It wasn't originally, but now it's been hijacked that way. It's designed around a principle that you could come here and work and learn and raise you or your families to have a better financial future, where in your country of origin you can't do it because the system doesn't support that level of opportunity. America provides more of a level of opportunity through capitalism and other instruments to get ahead if you figure them out, if you're smart enough to do it. That was the original principle, and many Americans have been able to do that. So the message of empathy and then contrast leads us to a place of, I am caring for the greater America. And that's the third piece that I would advise him to do is, what does it take to create the greater America? And Trump is not that vote. That's not the vote. Who's talking inclusion? Because America is a country of inclusion, isn't it? Yeah, it is, whether you like it or not.
So it sounds like these messages would land more with the people that the Lincoln Project is trying to really reach, and will erode their sense of loyalty to Trump.
Yeah, that's right. It's got to get to the loyalty down around inside that type of voter. The loyalty has got to drop to somewhere around 40%. I still like the guy. I still was hopeful for him. I probably would have voted for him again because I was so tired and didn't want to have Hillary in there, and I didn't like her, and she wasn't very energized, and he made me feel better. So I'm still 40% with him, but really I'm 60% with America, and he's not helping us either.
So it becomes a message potentially that's, a vote for Trump is not a vote for an American future that I would love.
Right. I am tired of him.
It's less about Trump versus Biden, more about America
versus Trump. Mm-hmm. Yeah, America's son. It's because he's gonna keep pounding the propaganda messages and the same kind of hijacking through reward, anticipation, uncertainty. His whole narrative about Obamagate is creating uncertainty about Democrats. It's not about Obama. It's about trying to get uncertainty about Democrats in order to create the physiological association with, well, Obamagate was a criminal. That means Biden must have known about it all, because the Ukraine stuff didn't stick as much as they needed it to, because once Biden came out of Super Tuesday with all the delegates, they went, uh-oh, that didn't work, because they needed the party to split and the party didn't. They just all jumped over to Biden and went away from Sanders and Warren and the rest of the folks.
Well, and that should show really the Trump campaign how their messages are not resonating with, the kind of voters they really need to sway to them in same way.
They're going down. They're making similar mistakes, and they're not creating the doubt, because they've not leaving themselves any room to do it. That's the problem. Once you start going out down identity politics, our side versus their side, all you got is a angry, Alabama fan yelling at an angry LSU fan. That's all right. You got.
No, you've got, that's right. You've got the team sports, dynamic.
Team sports. And he loves team sports because there's always a winner and loser. And then you get to be, playing the game, but not in the game. He's never really been in the game of capitalism. He just plays with everybody else's money in capitalism. He's not somebody that grows something. Mark Cuban's quote is one of my favorites.
Mark Cuban?
If he was such, he said one of his quotes, if he's such a great leader, if he's such a great capitalist, how many millionaires has he mentored? I've mentored over 100, or he said, or something like that, or 1,000. I might have lost my zero there. I've mentored over 100 millionaires. How many has he mentored? If he's such a great capitalist, that just shows that he's not in the game. He's not in the game to help minds and wealth to be created.
No, he's always been in it for himself.
Thank you for the bias. I appreciate that.
Well, that's not the
now. Just shift the
way to say it. Yes,
right. Because all of a sudden, that's not the important. He's always been in it to meet his need for respect. He's always been in it to be seen. That's a very 12-year-old, 9-year-old thing to do. He's always been in it to get acknowledgement. He's always been in it to get his own respect, recognition, acknowledgement. He's always been in it to prop up his self-worth. All of those land on the elephant side of the brain. The limbic system goes, oh yeah, he has been doing that. But as soon as you say he's been in it for himself, they say, not really. He's appealed to me.
Sure.
He's made me feel better.
It's too easy to, poke holes in that
so
type of
unsettling
statement. So that was,
Right. No, but that's the point you and I are talking together, is you get to gently walk into the trap, and your bias. This helps the listener when you say a bias. They go, yeah, and I go, yeah, but here's a better way to say it. See,
right.
That's the best part of our conversation, Tom, is you and I bantering back and forth and going like, we got to do something about this, because people are reinforcing a bias instead of shifting the way they speak about their own bias so they can penetrate the other side.
Well, and the tragedy, unfortunately, thus far, and I agree with you, it's not too late. So
it's not too late.
People at the head of the Lincoln Project, get some counsel, get some perspective and some skill, and realize that the messages you're putting out in some ways are just going to bounce off of the people that you are trying to sway and convince, and they're actually in some ways going to feed right into the Trump campaign's narrative. But there are ways to come out and make the statements that you're making, that you want to make rather, that will land and be much more effective. And to me, that's where, like, wow, you've got this, thankfully, I mean, we agree, many people, like senators, especially congressmen, worried about getting reelected, being afraid to voice any criticism of the Trump administration because he's going to go all scorched earth on them. And,
that's right.
These people that are free from any of those kinds of concerns.
Yes.
Are not in support of the president, believe he is not the leader we need, and his direction for America is not in alignment with peace and prosperity for all, or what they say. Have many things they say, and I would agree with them, and I admire them for coming out and putting America truly first, not just wearing a hat that says you're going to put America first. And I respect what they're doing, and it just pains me to see them put out these messages, incredibly professionally done, that really are going to be received very well by a lot of people, but who weren't going to vote for Trump anyway.
Right. They're gonna celebrate. It's going to confirm the bias. It's going to be in part one that is that the makers of the video will feel good, and I feel good when I watch them. You feel good when you watch them, going like, yeah, that's what we're in. Thank you so much for the truth. It's about somebody spoke up and put it on there. But meanwhile, what happens is that the brain inside the person that is already too far on the belief side of the fence, the 10, 20% you need to swing in an election, are still in a place of doubt because they're watching the video and going like, wait a minute, I've invested already 3 years in this guy. And, it's going to take a lot to get it over. It's not until, So that's the difficult thing, is that you can take a pounding on this. So like another example of this that, the folks from the Lincoln Project and other people and other political action committees that are putting ads together or trying to create memes and posters. And I received one of them recently, a picture of Donald Trump and standing in front of a crowd. And the thing that was written in all bold letters was the following sentence. And you'll see where the fact is, and you're going to see how you feel about it at the end. And then when I rewrite just the first sentence, you're going to see how you feel differently about it. And that's going to trigger more your elephant brain to move forward. So the quote says, how sad it must be believing that scientists, scholars, historians, economics, and journalists that have devoted their whole entire lives to deceiving you, while a reality TV star with decades of fraud and exhaustively documented lying is your only beacon of truth and honesty. Now I'm going, yeah, how sad for those people. So it confirms my bias.
Sure, mine too.
So now all of a sudden it's, what can we do to create that same fact? Believing that scientists, historians, blah, 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 are deceiving you, and flip it into something that engages that person in that Trump rally to go, I need to check my bias at the door when I go to the voting booth.
Yeah. I'd like that for their reaction to be like, Rutro, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I need to think about this some more, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you flip it?
No, might start with their empathy for them. He's inspiring. He's charismatic. He speaks his mind. And he speaks for you.
Okay.
Disappointing that by not believing scientists and historians that so many deaths have taken place in the United States. I kind of wish he would have protected you better. It's great if he inspires you, but he didn't protected America better.
Because you and America better. You've got to get the reader of this, what do we call this? A meme, or is meme is the wrong word?
Meme.
No. Is it a meme? Okay. So we've got to get the reader to be drawn in, to actually be in agreement with at least the first half or part of what is being said, so that they in their own brains say, yes, he is inspiring. He is charismatic. He is speaking his mind. That's what I love about him. And then you got to turn it and say, I don't know if you would say regrettably, or, something like that. And then move on to what you were saying.
Yeah, I feel disheartened. And you can't, and by lumping all of those different groups, scientists, scholars, historians, economics, and journalists, well, he's pounded journalists.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He's disregarded and then hijacked scientists. So disregarded, that part's easy. Hijacked is, well, his latest stunt was really brilliant. We should put this on the next one. I've been taking hydrochloroquine for 2 weeks.
You know what? So, Bill, that's a great one. This one came out. I just saw it yesterday in the news.
I'm going like.
He's saying, I'm taking hydroxychloroquine, though. So 2 things went through my mind and mine and my wife as we're watching the news on this is, first of all, she was rather cynical and saying, I don't believe he's actually taking it. He's just saying he's taking it.
Right.
Because he wants to prop up that drug or that drug company or the belief that there is a cure.
The belief that he's right.
Yes. I was of the belief that maybe he's taking it because he's tested positive for the virus and no one is talking about it, or he's worried he was in such close contact with someone who did test positive. He actually is trying to preemptively, make it so he would, not succumb to this virus so much. But
he's a germaphobe. He's a germaphobe. So that he's only a germaphobe. He's a germaphobe that doesn't listen to scientists. It's like the worst thing ever.
Well, but then I'm thinking, well, gosh, did he drink Clorox or Lysol then? I mean, if he really believes his own stuff, holy
very unsettling what he processes in his noggin. They've got to be very careful about what they tell him, because and he wants to brainstorm, and they're going like, every time we brainstorm, he takes something out of context and runs with it.
The worst
and amplifies
in America is his communications team and press, secretary, the whole thing, because they can't plan a darn thing. He hijacks the message daily away from any kind of plan.
It's very disheartening and sad to click down to that, but empathy, getting a needs-based narrative in front of him, and I keep using the word empathy or compassion, It's really a needs-based narrative in front of him. Mr. President, this is what respect would look like for you. This may be your strongest choice. See, I just put the bait on the hook for him. Respect.
Well, and strength and winning too. You sort of weaved in there. Right?
One way that we can create a win on this is to frame it this way.
Can you imagine? That would resonate with him. He would listen to that.
Right. He's going to listen to it because a needs-based narrative allows the heart to move and the elephant brain to move. Oh, I want that. I want fairness. One way we can frame fairness, Mr. President, is to frame it this way. See, now I'm giving the Trump team support.
Right.
Here's how they could frame it. They can frame this message. Yeah.
Wow. Well, very illuminating, Bill.
So the next time we're together, Tom, I think I really appreciate the acknowledgement, because it is, how do we continue, Tom, to keep these issues in front of our listeners and to provide them a fresh perspective? So, and that's why the word illuminating shows up in your mind, which is brilliant. It's illuminating because we are broadening our perspective about how the brain really works in references to belief biases, so that the voter can be led to a greater truth for America. I mean, I'll have a conservative discussion at any time with any one of my relatives and be completely safe, even though I got some folks over there that are not necessarily in alignment, and they've kind of drunk the Kool-Aid a bit, and they've bought the belief structure because they feel it's right. They don't know that they've been hijacked to feel that their truth has been purchased. They don't know that that's taken place. So,
all right.
So the next time, let's talk about the economy and what the new economy is going to look like. Let's go ahead and see that right now. And thank you, everybody, for listening. You know where to find us. This has really been great, Tom.
Yep. Thanks, Bill. Yep. Purchasingtruth.com, everyone, for the videos, the blog post, links to things we talked about. Thanks very much, Bill. Until next time.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.